The grand hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with barely contained laughter. Thousands of alien representatives from across the known universe gathered in the massive crystal dome, their various appendages and tentacles trembling with amusement. On the central display, Earth's announcement of achieving seventh-dimensional travel played on repeat. Captain James Walker stood at attention behind Earth's diplomatic desk, his weathered face remaining carefully neutral. 20 years of military service had taught him patience, but even he found it difficult to maintain his composure as Lord Grey, the ancient council member, openly mocked humanity's achievement. And how exactly? Lord Grey's silvery voice echoed through the chamber, his tall, slender form towering over the human delegation. Do these primitive apes propose to breach the dimensional barriers when they barely understand basic space travel? His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, each one glowing with contempt. More laughter rippled through the assembly. Some of the younger species, themselves only recently admitted to the council, laughed the loudest. They seemed eager to prove they belonged with the ancient races by joining in the mockery of Earth. Dr. Ann Miller, Earth's lead scientist, sat quietly at the diplomatic desk. Her gray hair was pulled back in a simple bun, and her plain black uniform bore only a single silver pin, the infinity symbol of the Earth Space Corps. She tapped her fingers slowly on the desk's smooth surface, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "The demonstration will proceed as scheduled," she said, her voice calm and clear. "In 3 days, the Infinity's Edge will launch from Earth's orbit. All council members are invited to observe." Lord Grey's second mouth twisted in a sneer. "Oh, we wouldn't miss it. It's not often we get to witness such entertainment." His personal guard, massive beings with crystalline skin, chuckled deeply. Captain Walker shifted his weight slightly, drawing Dr. Miller's attention. She knew him well enough to recognize his tension. The crew of the Infinity's Edge had trained for 2 years for this moment. They knew what they could do. They knew what humanity had achieved. Perhaps, Dr. Miller continued, standing slowly, the council would care to place their observations on official record. For historical purposes, of course. The alien representatives jumped at the chance. One by one, they stood to declare their predictions of human failure. The bird-like Avari questioned humanity's mathematical models. The liquid form Mersians bubbled with derision at Earth's primitive understanding of dimensional physics. The silicon-based crystalloids calculated a 99.99% chance of catastrophic failure. Through it all, the human delegation sat quietly. Walker watched Dr. Miller's face, remembering the day she had first demonstrated the mind-space engine in the secret facility beneath the Antarctic ice. He remembered the moment when the test cylinder had not just disappeared, but had existed in multiple places simultaneously. He remembered her explanation that human consciousness, so dismissed by the galactic community, was the key to it all. "We look forward to your attendance at the demonstration," Dr. Miller finally said, gathering her papers as the session ended. "Captain Walker's crew will be ready." As they walked out of the council chamber, their footsteps echoing on the crystalline floor, Walker finally spoke. "They really don't have any idea, do they?" Dr. Miller's smile widened slightly. "No, they don't. And that's exactly how we wanted it. Their arrogance has blinded them to the truth that consciousness, not technology, is the key to higher dimensions. They've spent millennia building bigger machines, more powerful computers, more complex AI systems, but they never looked inside themselves. They reached their transport, a simple Earth-made shuttle that the other races often ridiculed for its basic design. As they strapped in, Walker looked at the council tower through the viewport. 3 days, he said quietly. 3 days, Dr. Miller agreed. And then we'll show them why humans have always looked up at the stars and dreamed. Not because we wanted to build bigger ships or more powerful weapons, but because something inside us, something in our consciousness, knew there was more to reality than what we could see." The shuttle lifted off, leaving behind a chamber still echoing with alien laughter. In 3 days, that laughter would stop. In 3 days, humanity would reveal what it meant to truly understand the nature of reality itself. And not a single being in that chamber, except for the quiet humans at their simple desk, had any idea what was coming. 2 years earlier, in a hidden laboratory deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Miller stood before a room of skeptical military officers. The cold metal walls reflected the blue glow from her holographic display, showing complex equations that would change humanity's future forever. "Gentlemen," she said, pointing to a simple metal cube on the table before her, "what you're about to see will seem impossible. But I want you to remember one thing. Sometimes the simplest answers are the ones we overlook." Captain Walker, younger then, and more doubtful, sat in the front row. He watched as Dr. Miller placed her hand on the cube and closed her eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the cube existed in two places at once, both on the table and floating 3 feet above it. The room erupted in gasps and shouts. One general knocked over his chair standing up. But Walker just leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Dr. Miller's peaceful expression. "The aliens were right about one thing," she continued, opening her eyes while the cube continued to exist in two places. "Our technology is primitive compared to theirs, but they made a crucial mistake. They thought bigger machines and more powerful computers were the answer to dimensional travel." She walked around the table, her simple lab coat swishing softly. "But consider this. Humans have always been different. We dream. We imagine. We can hold impossible ideas in our minds. While the aliens built bigger engines, we told stories about walking through walls and being in two places at once." The cube suddenly appeared in 3 more locations around the room. The officers jumped back, but Walker noticed something important. The cube moved exactly when Dr. Miller thought about moving it. "The mind-space engine doesn't power the ship," she explained. "It powers us. It amplifies what humans have always been able to do, perceive and interact with higher dimensions through our consciousness." She revealed the next slide, showing brain scans. "Every night when we dream, our minds naturally reach into other dimensions. That's why dream physics doesn't match our normal reality. We've been practicing for this our entire existence as a species." Walker raised his hand, asking the question everyone was thinking. If this is true, why haven't the aliens discovered it? They're centuries ahead of us in brain research. Dr. Miller smiled. "Because they don't dream like we do. Their consciousness evolved differently. They're linear thinkers, building on what they can see and measure. But humans, we've always been able to imagine the impossible. And now we can finally prove that the impossible was real all along." She pressed a button, showing video footage of the first test flight. A small drone, equipped with a prototype mind-space engine, moved through solid walls, appeared in multiple places, and even seemed to exist slightly in the future and past at the same time. The engine works by amplifying our natural ability to perceive and interact with higher dimensions. It's not about pushing through dimensional barriers. It's about finally seeing the doors that were always there. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't behind in the dimensional space race. They had been ahead all along, but in a way no one had expected. "We've chosen to reveal this to the Galactic Council in 3 months," Dr. Miller continued. "But first, we need a crew, people who can learn to consciously control these abilities. Captain Walker," she turned to him directly, "your psychological evaluations show an unusually strong ability to think in multiple dimensions. Would you be interested in commanding humanity's first 7th-dimensional vessel?" Walker stood up slowly, looking at the cube still existing in multiple locations. He remembered his childhood dreams of flying, of passing through walls, of being everywhere and nowhere at once. Those hadn't been just dreams, he realized. They had been practice. "When do we start?" he asked. Dr. Miller smiled. "We already have. This conversation is happening in 3 different time periods right now. You just haven't learned to notice it yet." The officers looked around nervously, but Walker just nodded. Somehow, He'd always known humanity was meant for something bigger than just building faster ships. They were meant to break the very rules of reality itself. And soon, very soon, the entire galaxy would understand exactly what that meant. The launch day arrived with a sky full of alien ships. They hung above Earth like glittering jewelry, their advanced engines humming with power. Each race had sent their finest scientific vessels to observe what they believed would be humanity's greatest embarrassment. The Infinity's Edge floated in low Earth orbit, looking surprisingly simple compared to the alien ships. It was sleek and white, about the size of an old Earth cargo plane, with no visible weapons or fancy technology on its surface. Many alien observers were already sending mocking messages about its primitive design. Inside the ship, Captain Walker sat in the command chair, his crew of 5 at their stations around him. They wore simple white uniforms with the Infinity symbol on their shoulders. Each of them had been chosen not for their technical skills, but for their ability to dream while awake. "All systems check," said Tom, the young engineer. His hands moved across the controls, which were notably free of the complex displays that filled alien ships. Instead, each station had a single smooth panel that responded to thought as much as touch. "Mind space engine ready," reported Mary from her station. She had been one of the first to master the art of existing in multiple dimensions at once. Consciousness sync at 100%. Walker looked at each of his crew members. Bill at navigation, Linda at communications, and Rob at systems monitoring. All of them sat with their eyes half closed, already beginning to perceive the higher dimensions around them. "Control, this is Infinity's Edge," Walker spoke into the comm. "We are ready for launch." Dr. Miller's voice came back clear and calm. "Confirmed, Infinity's Edge. You are cleared for dimensional shift. The alien observation fleet is in position. Show them what humanity can do." The alien ships had positioned themselves in a wide circle around the Infinity's Edge. Their sensors were focused entirely on the human vessel, ready to record its failure in perfect detail. On the Galactic Council's main channel, Lord Grey's voice dripped with amusement. "Let the human demonstration begin," he announced. "All ships record every moment of this historic event." Walker took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Around him, his crew did the same. The mind space engine hummed to life, not with the roar of powerful machines, but with a soft tone that seemed to resonate with their very thoughts. "Remember your training," Walker said quietly. "Don't try to force it. Let your mind expand naturally, just like in practice. The engine will follow our consciousness." The ship began to glow softly. On their sensors, the alien ships detected nothing unusual. No energy buildup, no dimensional distortions, nothing that matched their understanding of how higher dimensional travel should work. "Beginning shift," Walker announced. "First stage, 4th dimension." The Infinity's Edge flickered slightly, and suddenly it existed both above and below the alien observation ring. Several alien captains adjusted their sensors, thinking they were seeing a malfunction. "5th dimension," Walker continued. Now the ship appeared at 8 different points simultaneously, forming a perfect cube in space. The alien communication channels erupted with confused chatter. "6th dimension." The ship's outline became slightly blurred, as if it existed in slightly different versions of reality all at once. Alien sensors began to fail completely, unable to track something that violated their understanding of physics. "Preparing for 7th dimensional shift," Walker said, his voice now coming from multiple points in space and time simultaneously. Lord Grey's voice cut through the chaos. "This is impossible. Their technology can't." 7th dimension. Now, the Infinity's Edge didn't disappear with a flash or a bang. Instead, it simply existed everywhere and nowhere at once. The human crew felt their consciousness expand beyond the limits of normal space and time. They could see every alien ship from all angles simultaneously. They could observe their own launch from both the past and future. Through their expanded awareness, they could sense the panic spreading through the alien fleet. Ships that had come to record a failure were now desperately trying to understand how a primitive human vessel had achieved what their greatest scientists had declared impossible. Walker opened his eyes, which now seemed to reflect the infinite possibilities of higher dimensional space. Control, this is Infinity's Edge. Seventh dimensional shift successful. We are operating beyond standard space-time parameters. Dr. Miller's reply came with just a hint of satisfaction. Excellent work, Infinity's Edge. I believe our alien friends might want to revise their earlier predictions about human capabilities. The laughter had stopped. The mockery had ceased, and humanity's journey to reshape the galaxy had just begun. Inside the Infinity's Edge, reality itself began to change. The crew experienced something no human had ever felt before. True seventh-dimensional awareness. Colors they had never seen before danced across their vision. Thoughts became solid things they could touch. Past and future existed all at once, like pages in a book they could flip through at will. Status report, Walker called out, his voice echoing strangely as it existed across multiple points in time simultaneously. This is incredible, Mary replied, her eyes wide with wonder. She could see the energy patterns of the universe itself, flowing like rivers through space and time. The mind-space engine is performing perfectly. Our consciousness is fully synchronized with seventh-dimensional space. Through the ship's viewers, they could see the alien fleet from impossible angles, above, below, inside out, and through time. All at once, some ships appeared to them as they were built centuries ago, while others showed signs of age that hadn't happened yet. Tom laughed from his engineering station. Captain, you should see their engines right now. From this dimension, they look like children's toys. Focus, everyone, Walker reminded them, though he couldn't help but smile. Remember the training. Don't let your consciousness drift too far. Stay anchored to your physical form. Linda at communications suddenly sat up straighter. Captain, the alien ships are trying to scan us. They're sensors. They're just passing right through us. To them, we barely exist in normal space anymore. On their main screen, they could see Lord Grey's flagship attempting to track them. The advanced alien vessel, once so impressive, now seemed strangely limited and confined to its single dimension of time and space. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Linda reported. They're demanding to know how we're doing this. Some ships are. They're actually backing away from us. Rob spoke up from systems monitoring, his voice filled with awe. Captain, I can see the fuel in their engines burning in slow motion. I can see the thoughts forming in their brains before they even think them. This is beyond anything we practiced. Walker understood their excitement. His own consciousness stretched out like an infinite web, able to perceive every detail of space and time around them. He could see the quantum particles dancing between dimensions, the strings of reality vibrating with cosmic music only humans could hear. Begin the demonstration, he ordered, remembering their mission. Let's show them exactly what the seventh dimension can do. The Infinity's Edge moved, but not in any way a normal ship would move. Instead, it simply chose to exist in different locations, picking points in space and time like selecting coordinates on a map. First, they appeared simultaneously at every corner of the alien observation fleet's formation. Then, they existed at every point in between, creating a sphere of human vessels that all existed at once. The alien ship's sensors went crazy, unable to understand how one ship could break the laws of physics so completely. They're panicking, Linda reported, monitoring the alien communications. 3 ships have emergency jumped away. The others, they're sending messages back to their homeworlds. I think we actually scared them. Message from Dr. Miller, Rob announced. She says it's time for the final demonstration. Walker nodded. This was the moment they had practiced for months to achieve. All crew, prepare for complete dimensional shift. We're going to show them what it means to truly master the 7th dimension. The crew joined their consciousness together, just as they had practiced. The mind-space engine hummed in perfect harmony with their thoughts. And then, In a moment that would be recorded in every alien history book, the Infinity's Edge did something impossible. It existed everywhere in the universe at once. For a brief moment, every alien ship could see a copy of the Infinity's Edge floating above their own homeworld. Every colony, every space station, every alien vessel in every corner of known space suddenly had a human ship in perfect seventh-dimensional clarity right beside it. And through their expanded consciousness, the crew could see it all. Billions of worlds, countless alien species, all witnessing the same moment of revelation. Humanity hadn't just caught up to the galactic community. They had surpassed them in ways the aliens couldn't even comprehend. "Message from Earth," Linda said softly, her voice filled with pride. "Dr. Miller says, well done." They're not laughing anymore. Walker looked out at the infinite possibilities stretching before them and smiled. The crossing was complete. Humanity had arrived. The silence across all galactic communication channels was deafening. After the Infinity's Edge demonstrated its ability to exist everywhere at once, even Lord Grey, the most vocal critic of humanity, had fallen quiet. The shock of what humans had achieved was too great for words. Dr. Miller chose this moment to address the Galactic Council through a special broadcast. Her image appeared simultaneously on every alien ship, not through traditional communication channels, but through the Infinity's Edge's seventh-dimensional projection. "Honorable members of the Council," she began, her voice calm and clear, "I believe now is the time for some explanations." In the Council's main chamber, Lord Grey found his voice. "Explanations. You have violated every known law of physics. This is impossible." Dr. Miller smiled. "Impossible by your understanding, perhaps, but that's because you've all made the same mistake. You thought technology alone was the key to dimensional travel. You built bigger engines, more powerful computers, and more complex machines, but you never once looked at the most powerful tool in the universe, consciousness itself." The Infinity's Edge demonstrated her point by passing through a solid asteroid, existing both inside and outside the rock at the same time. Captain Walker's voice joined the broadcast, coming from everywhere and nowhere. "Every human child does this in their dreams," he explained. "We walk through walls, fly through space, exist in multiple places at once. Our consciousness naturally understands higher dimensions. We just needed the mind-space engine to turn those dreams into reality." The alien representatives watched in stunned silence as Dr. Miller brought up a series of images, human brain scans compared to alien ones. The differences were subtle but crucial. "Your species evolved to think linearly," she continued. "You see time as a straight line, space as fixed dimensions. But humans, we dream in curves. We think in possibilities. Our minds naturally reach into higher dimensions every time we sleep, every time we imagine, every time we create art or music or stories." On every alien sensor, the Infinity's Edge continued to break the laws of physics. It existed in the past and future simultaneously. It moved through solid matter like it wasn't there. It appeared inside sealed rooms and outside in space at the same time. "The mind-space engine doesn't create dimensional portals or tear holes in spacetime," Dr. Miller explained. "It simply amplifies what human consciousness can already do naturally. We don't force our way through dimensional barriers. We simply perceive the doorways that were always there." Lord Grey, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly, finally asked the question everyone was thinking. "Why? Why show us this now?" Walker answered, his voice echoing through dimensions. "Because it's time for the galaxy to understand something important. Humanity isn't primitive. We're not behind. We're just different. And that difference is exactly what the universe needed." To demonstrate, the crew of the Infinity's Edge did something remarkable. They allowed their seventh-dimensional perception to touch the minds of every alien watching. For just a moment, every being in the galaxy experienced what human consciousness felt like. They saw time like pages in a book, space like a pond they could dip their hands into. They felt the freedom of existing beyond linear time, beyond solid matter, beyond the limits of normal space. For one brief moment, they understood what it meant to perceive reality as humans did. When the connection ended, many alien representatives were weeping or making their species equivalent of emotional displays. They had felt something their evolution had never prepared them for: true multidimensional awareness. "We don't want to rule the galaxy," Dr. Miller said softly. "We don't want to prove our superiority. What we want is to share this gift, to teach those who are willing to learn, to show you that the universe is far more beautiful and complex than you ever imagined." The infinity's edge returned to its original position, though now everyone knew it existed in many other places too. The crew's consciousness had forever changed how the galaxy would view humanity. Lord Grey, humbled for perhaps the first time in his long life, stood up in the council chamber. "I believe," he said slowly, "that we owe humanity an apology, and perhaps a request for teaching." Dr. Miller smiled. The revelation was complete. The galaxy would never be the same. After the initial revelation, the Galactic Council demanded a full demonstration of the infinity's edge's capabilities. They wanted to understand exactly what humanity had achieved. Captain Walker and his crew were happy to show them. In the vast space near Jupiter, hundreds of alien ships gathered to watch. Even the most advanced military vessels of the galaxy came to observe. The atmosphere was no longer mocking, but filled with nervous anticipation. "First demonstration," Walker announced to the gathered fleet, "moving through solid matter." The infinity's edge approached one of Jupiter's largest moons. Instead of going around it, the ship simply passed through it, existing in every layer of rock and metal simultaneously. Alien sensors showed the impossible. The human ship was perfectly fine inside the moon's core, its crew completely unaffected by heat or pressure. "Our consciousness understands that solid matter is mostly empty space," Mary explained over the broadcasts. "We simply choose which spaces to exist in." Next, Tom took control for the second demonstration. "Watch this," he said with a smile. The infinity's edge appeared at 20 different points in space simultaneously. Not copies or holograms, but the same ship existing in multiple locations at once. Each version was real and solid. Alien scientists frantically recorded data, their theories about the impossible energy requirements for such a feat crumbling before their eyes. "Third demonstration," Linda announced. "Time perception." The ship began to move in a way that broke every law of physics. It arrived at locations before it left its starting point. It existed in tomorrow and yesterday at the same time. Through their viewing screens, the alien ships watched as the infinity's edge seemed to dance through time itself. "How are you controlling time?" Lord Grey asked, his voice shaking slightly. "We're not controlling it," Walker explained. "We're just perceiving it differently. Imagine time like a book. You can read page 1, then page 10, then back to page 5. We're just choosing which moment to experience." Rob handled the fourth demonstration. The infinity's edge approached a small asteroid field. Instead of navigating through it, the ship simply shifted the asteroids into different dimensions. Rocks that could have caused damage simply passed through the ship, as if one or the other didn't exist. "Perfect defense," Rob explained. "We don't need shields when we can choose which dimension to exist in." Then came the demonstration that truly showed the power of human consciousness. A group of ancient warships, known for their unstoppable weapons, were invited to fire their strongest attacks at the infinity's edge. The beams and projectiles passed harmlessly through the human ship, not because of shields or defensive technology, but because the crew simply chose to exist slightly out of phase with the attacks. The weapons couldn't hit what they couldn't properly reach. "We can perceive the dimension each attack travels through," Bill explained from his station. "So we just shift to a different one. It's like stepping aside, but through reality itself." The final demonstration was the most impressive. The infinity's edge began to glow softly, and suddenly every alien ship could see through the crew's eyes. They'd witnessed the flowing strings of reality, the multiple dimensions stacked like layers of a cake, the infinite possibilities existing all at once. "This is how we see the universe," Walker said softly. "This is what human consciousness can perceive, and with the Mindspace engine, we can share this perception with others." When the demonstration ended, the alien ships floated in stunned silence. Their most powerful weapons were useless. Their most advanced shields meant nothing. Their fastest engines seemed primitive compared to a ship that could simply choose to exist anywhere it wanted. Lord Grey's voice came over the general channel. "And what do you intend to do with this power?" Walker looked at his crew, then responded with a smile in his voice. "We intend to explore, to learn, to teach those who want to learn. Humanity has no interest in conquest or domination. We just want to understand the universe in all its dimensions." The message was clear. Humanity hadn't just created a powerful ship. They had opened a door to a completely new way of understanding reality. And they were offering to share this knowledge with those who could accept that sometimes the strongest power comes from seeing things differently. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had hoped for. 1 month after the Infinity's Edges demonstration, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. The mocking laughter was replaced by respectful silence. The sneering faces were now filled with wonder. And at the center of it all, humanity stood ready to change the galaxy forever. Dr. Miller stood at the main podium, addressing representatives from over 1,000 alien civilizations. Captain Walker and his crew sat behind her, their simple white uniforms now commanding more respect than the elaborate robes of ancient alien races. "Today," Dr. Miller began, "we establish the Dimensional Academy. Earth will open its doors to students from all worlds who wish to learn about higher dimensional travel. But first, you must understand, this isn't about technology. It's about changing how you think." Lord Grey, who had once led the mockery against humans, now stood as their strongest supporter. His tall form bowed slightly as he spoke. "We have reviewed all the data. Human consciousness is unique in the galaxy. You can perceive things we cannot naturally see." "Yes," Dr. Miller agreed. "But that doesn't mean you can't learn. Just as we learn to walk and talk as babies, you can learn to expand your consciousness. It will take time. It will be difficult, but it's possible." The Infinity's Edge floated visible through the Council Chamber's crystal dome, existing partially in several dimensions at once. Its soft glow served as a constant reminder of what humanity had achieved. "We have selected the first group of students," Walker announced. 20 beings from different species who showed the most potential for dimensional awareness. They will begin training next month. A young alien stood up, their crystalline form shimmering with excitement. "Will we be able to do everything humans can do?" "That depends on you," Mary answered from her seat. "Some of you might learn to perceive all 7 dimensions. Others might reach only the 4th or 5th. But every step beyond your current perception will open new wonders." Tom added, "Think of it like learning music. Some become masters, others learn to play simple songs. But everyone can appreciate the beauty of the melody." The council chamber buzzed with excited whispers. Species that had once competed for military dominance now competed for spots in Earth's Dimensional Academy. The power to exist in multiple dimensions, to step through solid matter, to perceive time differently. These abilities were worth more than any weapon. "But remember," Dr. Miller cautioned, her voice growing serious, "with this knowledge comes responsibility. Any species that attempts to use dimensional perception for warfare or conquest will be immediately cut off from further training. This power must be used for exploration and understanding, not destruction." Lord Grey nodded in agreement. "We have seen what human ships can do. No conventional weapon can harm them. No shield can stop them. It would be foolish to make enemies of those who can exist in 7 dimensions." "We don't want to be feared," Walker said firmly. "We want to be teachers, explorers, friends. The universe is vast and full of wonders we have yet to discover. Together, we can see these wonders in ways no single species could manage alone." The council voted unanimously to accept Earth's terms. The new order was established. Humanity would guide the galaxy into a new age of dimensional exploration. Ships would no longer need to blast their way through space. They would simply step through the doors that had always been there, unseen until human consciousness showed the way. As the session ended, Dr. Miller looked out at the changed faces of the alien representatives. Some were already practicing the basic meditation techniques humans had taught them, trying to glimpse beyond their normal perception of reality. "Captain," she said softly to Walker, "I think we've done it. We've changed the galaxy without firing a single shot." Walker smiled, his consciousness easily perceiving the hope and excitement flowing through the chamber in waves of seventh-dimensional energy. "We did more than that," he replied. "We showed them that the greatest power doesn't come from strength or technology. It comes from seeing the universe in a new way." The infinity's edge glowed softly above them, existing in multiple dimensions, a bridge between what was and what could be. Humanity had risen from being mocked as primitive apes to becoming the teachers of the galaxy, and they had done it not through force or fear, but through the unique gift they had carried within their minds all along, the power to dream beyond the possible and make those dreams real. The new order had begun, and it was beautiful.